Well, hey, leader, welcome to the Lead Culture Podcast. I'm Jenni, founder and CEO of the Foresight Group. If your organization is scaling fast, navigating a merger, or maybe in the middle of crisis, your culture is either your greatest asset or it might be your biggest liability. See, culture doesn't take care of itself. So this podcast is designed to give you the clarity, a framework, and the tools to lead with intention. So let's dive into today's episode. Friends, I am joined by Adam Tarnow, who is a leadership development specialist, keynote speaker, and author of probably what is my current favorite book, The Fog of Work. Adam has a unique blend of humor, humility, and hard-won insight. He helps professionals get out of their own way, navigate complexity, and lead with confidence. Whether he's speaking about leadership, communication, optimism, or culture, Adam cuts through the noise and helps good leaders become great leaders. So even with that intro, you all already know why Adam and I are now best friends, because we share so much passion for leadership and culture. So Adam, thanks for joining me. So excited for this conversation today.
Well, that was a great intro. This is now my favorite podcast. So thank you. We're just both raving fans right now of one another. No, I really am excited to be here, and thank you for inviting me on.
I'm glad you're here. And seriously, we have mutual friends and have been acquainted, but haven't had a lot of time to sit down and talk together. And so in preparation for this conversation, of course, you sent your book, and I literally have been just like devouring it in my morning reading time, because I feel like you've done such a good job of putting language to the experience of middle managers and what they're feeling. One of the things that we notice all the time in our culture work is how middle managers are really the crux of whether culture is really strong and healthy or whether it's not. Now, we know every person on the team impacts culture. And I say leaders even have disproportionate influence because of their role.
Right.
But middle managers hold so much influence in organizations. And yet, right now, to me, it feels like the impossible role. So
it does, yeah.
I would love for you to give us a little more backstory on who you are, what you do. But I'd really love to hear from you. Why middle managers? Why did that even become the thing that you've zeroed in on?
I know it was so. It takes one to know one. It's been my entire all but 2 years of my career. I've been in middle management. I just have been. Right? And so I feel like there's a part of me that I get that culture. I get that, or that role. I understand it. I have had some fantastic middle management experiences, and then I've had some gut-wrenching, soul-crushing ones as well. And what I do now in leadership development and going around the country and talking to mainly middle managers, people who are right dead smack in the middle of an organization, I started to realize that my experience was very similar to theirs, and some of my stories and things that I have been in my own journey of trying to figure out how to not let this role destroy me was helpful for them. And then we decided to write it down. But you're exactly right. This demographic, more than any other, the stats are they're horrifying. There is no professional demographic that is more burnt out, stressed out, and about to snap than those who are right dead smack in the middle. It was fun to kind of, when I wrote the book, to trace the history of middle management. It started as a very well-respected role. And then I had some fun because there's really no right or wrong on this, but I think I identified, I think it was April 16th of 1989 was when the crosshairs went on middle management, when the first Dilbert cartoon came out.
Yes.
And then it's really interesting to watch pop culture and what pop culture has done to the middle manager. And it is not pretty. I mean, everything from, some of the movies with Office Space and Horrible Bosses to obviously the great TV show with The Office, that great Monster.com commercial from the Super Bowl years ago, where the little kid says, I want to work my way up to middle management. It just seems like it has become this really well-respected position has become the butt of a joke. But it's still, there's some of the estimates, 20 million people are living that reality. And it was kind of fun to go, can we bring dignity back to that role? Because they are, as I said in the book, they are the verbs in the sentence. They're the ones who get stuff done for organizations, and they're hurting.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm so glad you said that too, because I was going to say right off the bat, we need to like even clarify your perception of middle managers, because everybody kind of cringes. I notice I cringe when I say it because I'm afraid people will see that as a negative, or they won't want to see themselves in that role for all the reasons you just named. And so I love that you bring back the history of actually that was a really respected and important role.
Incredibly important. It's still important. It just, 100%. I think some of the pop culture stuff has just made it just not cool. It's just not cool anymore. And, I don't know if I'm going to be able to be successful in bringing dignity back to the role. But as you said, I think at least for the individual, just to know that they're not wandering through a desert or through, as I say in the book, a valley that has no end. And it's just hopeless. And it's not, there's the really pessimistic view of middle management is like, just throw your hands up and just go, well, I guess work's hard and we're all going to die. This is just the way it's going to go. And man, we spend so much time at work. Why? That feels like I've been there. That I wasted years of my life throwing my hands up saying work is hard and we're all going to die. I gave away, Jenni, so much power to people who were not even asking for it. And just assuming I was a victim, I was suffering from one of what I believe to be one of the most acute cases of learned helplessness of anybody I've ever met that Martin Seligman talks about. And it was because I didn't have a system for handling the role. And it's been a lot of fun to try to help.
I love that. As you're saying that, I'm thinking of, again, when we're doing some of our culture work, I'll be hearing stories of team members in middle roles throughout the organization placing blame somewhere. But I'll say, well, and you and I've talked about this before, like, who's the they? Like, well, they do this or they do that, or, and I was like, well, who's the they?
Who is it?
And then they'll have to think about it. And then, and we'll talk about, what if you're the they? What if you actually have more influence and agency and that maybe you've been giving away, and that maybe has taken us in a little bit different direction. But it's so interesting how that you get kind of stuck in that role and you assume you don't have any influence, agency, decision-making, or authority. And you do kind of throw your hands up. And it's interesting.
You do.
You maybe have seen this stat, but I've seen the stat of a lot of younger leaders are not wanting to go into middle management because of all these perceptions.
Yep. I've seen those, and I was able to see a few of them before we hit publish on the book, on the Fog of Work. And it's the part in my workshops now, or in a few of the keynotes that I've done, when I say, hey, guess who's watching? And it's Gen Z. It is sitting there watching going, yeah, I don't want to do this, because they're watching so many middle managers. They're seeing the results of all that. And so,
why would I want to do that?
That's right. And anybody that's thinking about bench strength or leadership development pipeline, I mean, for a lot of people, the future of your organization is going to depend upon being able to promote people into middle management and helping them learn how to navigate through it. So there's a lot on the line, I think, with this.
I love you said this in the book. You said, if middle managers aren't healthy, the organization isn't healthy, which of course I like perk up, because that's how I'm thinking about things. But then you said the very management layer that has been so severely beaten down is absolutely vital to achieving organizational success.
Yeah.
Why would you say it's vital? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I've never been an executive, but I've worked with a lot of them. And, executives, and I like what you said earlier, executives play a role. The board and the executives and senior director, those at the top of the organization on our little hierarchy and our org charts, they play a role, and their role is generally not front lines do the work. It doesn't mean that they just have a different role to play, just like in a football team. The quarterback has to do something different than the defensive end needs to do. And so their role is not execution. Middle managers are responsible for execution. And so anything that an organization needs to do to generate cash flow, to grow, to cut costs, a manager is making sure that happens. So if they're not doing well, then the organization is not healthy, because nothing's getting done.
Nothing's getting done. I think you call this out in the book too, but I think this is maybe part of the pain point is for most middle manager roles now, you have to be player coach. Like you're not just leading and directing. You have both your own work you're responsible for and coaching the rest of the team.
It really is. Yeah. That was interesting again to trace out some of the history of middle management. I think that's a result of in the 80s and 90s when there were consultants were coming in, which was covered in Office Space, comically in Office Space. The consultants came in and took out layers of management. Well, the work didn't go away. It was just given to individual contributors. And now they had to do both. You've got to manage a to-do list and you have to manage a team. And that can be a real big challenge for a lot of managers because they're the playing what I call game one, which is the technical proficiency side. That's easy. You're great at it. You get celebrated for being technically proficient. And then what's weird about corporate America and organizations is when you're a great technician, they reward you with people management usually. And that's totally a whole nother game. It's a different game. And I call that game two. And if you try to win game two, the same way you're playing game one, you burn out and it doesn't happen. And let's be honest, the technical proficiency side is way more fun for a lot of people than the people management side. And so if you've got this tension of, am I going to have this awkward conversation to give somebody feedback, or am I going to dig into the spreadsheet and figure out where the formula error is? Like, give me the spreadsheet all day. That's a lot more tangible than navigating the waters of the relational part.
And I know how to do it because I was successful at it, right?
I like to win just like you do, right?
Yeah. I remember very distinctly, this was when I was at CrossPoint, and we had grown and my team had expanded, and I had been in management previous to that, but I don't know, for whatever reason, it stood out to me in this season. And I got to the end of the week and I felt like nothing on my to-do list got crossed off. Like, and I'm a task person by default, right? So the irony that I'm in people work is just how God works. But I love a good to-do list, and I love that feeling of being productive and getting a lot of things done. And I got to the end of the week and nothing was done on my to-do list. And I started to spiral. The achiever in me is feeling like I've done nothing meaningful and significant. And then I began to reflect on my week. And I thought about the various conversations that I had had with my team members and helping team members problem solve or coaching somebody through something or, helping somebody think through a hard decision or, all these different things that had happened through the week. And I was like, that's actually what the work I should be doing.
That's right.
I just can't quantify it the same way. And so I'm having this internal wrestle. And maybe that's one example of where those tensions live for managers. But what else do you see around? You talk about the ands in the book.
That's right. Yeah. Well, the book starts with this story of when I got my first promotion. And if we just go back there real quick, because there's just this image of a valley. So it was the first promotion. I was an accountant. I was an auditor. I was in Atlanta. And I, promotions went out. We went from being a staff auditor to being a senior auditor, and they send out an email. And I have a meeting with my manager a couple days later. And it's like, hey, I saw that you got promoted. And I was like, yeah. He's like, congrats, your life just got a lot more difficult. And it was a little bit of a record scratch moment for me to go, what do you mean more difficult? Because I just thought every promotion was closer and closer to easy street, to retirement, basically. And he then drew out this drawing for me that I know, people that are listening to this, just imagine a U. Just a U shape. And he basically was saying, when you get promoted, yes, you move up on an org chart, but in reality, you go down into a valley, and that you went from the left side of the U now to the middle. You're down at the bottom of the U. And where this is important is the way problems seem to always roll downhill and collect in the valley. And so a lot of middle managers are just there. And, for the longest time, Jenny, I just thought that was a quirk of public accounting, and I thought it was a public accounting thing. And it was kind of, it's a little bit of that story is a little bit of a legend in the public accounting industry. When I talk to others that are my age in the accounting industry that came up through that, they're like, oh, I've seen that drawing. So that was that. But I hung out on that for a little bit to just go, okay, if middle management is a valley, well, valleys have certain things that are just realities, and they've got tricky terrain and they've got unpredictable weather. And when you say yes to leadership, the tricky terrain is this land of ands, right? You've got to manage your to-do list and your team. So now you have all these great expectations on you. You have to navigate relationships. So you have the terrain of just people, and then you've got the terrain of what I think is maybe the largest source of stress for most middle managers is you now are being held accountable for outcomes that you don't fully control. And that's just saying yes to leadership. Leadership is it is letting go in many ways and saying yes to responsibility. And so things are going to show up on your annual review that never one time show up on your to-do list. And that's a very uncomfortable feeling. I just call it the vulnerability of that is, I mean, candidly, I could lose my job if my team doesn't perform. And that's how I'm going to be judged now. And for a long time, that was really stressful for me. And I looked for a villain. I was like, who can I blame for this? Because when things don't meet my expectations, that's what I start doing is I just start looking for someone to blame. And my friend who I dedicated the book to, my friend Randy Marshall, that came into my life, 2017, 2018 timeframe, he really helped me see my story does not have a villain. It just has a valley. And these are just realities. Adam, you said yes to leadership. So you can't change this part of the game. This is just what it is. This is what you said yes to. Now, it doesn't mean it has to wear you out. It doesn't mean it always has to grind you to a pulp. What you really need to do is figure out a way to handle it. You need a system for handling the inevitable stress that goes with it. And then the weather is just all the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. That's you get those things together, and that's where you get the fog of work. So you're in this valley. You've got all this stuff going on. And that's where I think a lot of middle managers feel like they are every day.
When I read that part of the book, I was like, again, just so well named that experience. And I'm thinking of some of the teams that I'm working with right now and thinking, this is what they're feeling. And I think you often end up feeling trapped by that valley, right? It's like, I don't know my way out. And you give us better language for that.
You do, yeah. It's really bad. And I was just on Tuesday, down in Houston, and I share all this, and it's really just I have some fun with it because let's have some fun. It's okay. We can laugh at some of this as well. I mean, it's real serious, but it is some lightheartedness helps us. And I always go, what do you think when I put the drawing up there? The first question people ask me, they raise their hand and they just say, how do I get out of the valley? That was me when I first got that promotion. I was like, I do not like this valley. This is not fun. I'm putting my head down and I'm going to white knuckle my way and I'm going to get out of this as fast as possible. And I always look at my watch because it's always in the morning sometime. And I'm like, listen, it's 9:45. I'm not trying to ruin your day. You got a lot of day left, but you need to know there's no way out. There's just no way out of the valley. But it doesn't mean work's hard and we're all going to die. The better question is not how do I get out? It's how do I get through?
Yeah.
How do I make it through? And that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
And
well,
that's where we spend. There really is. There really is. And there's a lot of leaders that have figured out how to make it through. If we just talk to senior leaders for a moment, pretty much every senior level leader and executive leader knows everything that I wrote about in the fog of work. They will not learn anything new. They're like, of course, this is what you do. I do not doubt that a senior leader knows how to and has a system for dealing with the inevitable stress that goes with leadership. What I doubt is that senior leaders know how to teach it to others.
Ooh.
And that's why I wrote the book and I put it in their hand because I had this story for me when I was right dead smack. I'd been in the valley for years, was so stressed out where I did for the first time in my career. I just didn't show up to work for 2 days because I was so stressed out. And I sent an email to my leaders and said, I'm not going to show up and I'll see you on Tuesday. I do not recommend doing that, but they were very kind to me. And when I showed up the next day, they were like, what's going on? You said you're not doing well. And I was like, the stress. And they looked at me and they said, yeah, the job doesn't get less stressful. You just got to figure it out. And so my solution was I quit. I left that industry. And then I went to go work on a church staff. And I thought for a year, Jenni, I thought I won the lottery. I just thought this is amazing. I thought, oh, this is what it was. That was an accounting issue. Now that I'm in ministry, everything's better. And then the church did something crazy. They promoted me. and then guess where I found myself? I was right dead smack in the valley again. And I was like, oh no, I've made a huge mistake. I thought I ran from the valley. And that's because I was looking for a way out. Yeah. And whenever you just look for a way out, the valley is designed, I think, to teach you a lesson. And until you learn it, there's no way through. And that's where I want senior leaders to feel equipped on how to teach their middle managers how to manage the inevitable stress of the valley. I want to be able to teach those managers how to find their way through. And I think it's a remarkably simple tool to be able to use the framework in the book on what do you do when you feel like you're being, the fog is overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, hopefully it just names that stress for a lot of them and gives them that hope that there is a way through this.
There's a way through. I want to give you an opportunity to tell us maybe a couple of things to get us thinking about how to get through. We need to get the book. That's first, but I want to give you an opportunity for that. But I want to hit a little bit on the senior leaders because I think. So I'm curious, do you think senior leaders are just saying, hey, figure it out? Because either they're like, well, I had to figure it out, so you got to figure it out. Or they're just too overwhelmed with their own stuff that they don't feel the need to? Or why are they not more intuitively helping support leaders through the tough parts of the valley?
That's right. If I'm going to assume the best, I just assume they figured it out, and so they just assume everybody's like them. We all do that. I just assume everybody's going to be somewhat like me. So I think there is some of that where it's not with malintent that they just go, that's just what you do. It's a hazing ritual. It's like why we have pledges before we have brothers, or whatever. It's not just that. The industry I think of with that is in the medical field, surgeons. Like they're known for these residencies that are just, 20-hour days, 28-hour days, whatever it goes through with that. And I think there's some that's just the culture. But I think for a lot of them, it's just nobody told them. And so they figured it out. And so they just assume everybody else will. I like to think about it like the bell curve, that you got 20% that will figure it out just because they just will. Yeah. And then you got 20% that no matter what you teach them, they don't care. They're not going to do anything. And so then you've got that, that 60% in the middle. That really, that's where I think the book is written for them and to help them. I can't do the trailing 20% that don't care. Nothing's going to help them.
Yeah, we can't do anything with that.
And this is for that group right there in the middle. Just gives them a couple of things to do.
One of the reasons why I think I love this book, your work, and this conversation is because the majority of team members are in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Like, one of the things that I find myself coaching a lot of organizational leaders through is, especially because we'll work with a lot of small-ish organizations, less than a couple hundred staff. And there's only so many leadership seats.
That's right.
And so people will be aspiring, because we assume, and this is one of the things that if I could wave a magic wand and change about organizational culture, I would change the perception that moving up the ladder is actually equals value. I think so many of us assume that moving up the org chart equates to my value in the organization. And I don't believe that's true.
No, I agree.
Your giftedness and your strength in the right seat is the highest value to the organization. So the majority of us are sitting in the middle. We're not all of us are going to rise to those most senior seats, nor should we, because we might not be wired for that.
That's right.
So I think why I resonate so much with this is like, gosh, if we could get more comfortable with the middle roles in an organization, and the value and the significance and learn how to navigate those dynamics, navigate that terrain, the joy we would find in our work and the meaningful contribution to the organization, I think could just be exponential. So
absolutely.
Just a little note on that.
That's really good. I like that.
So we need to know how to get through. Give us a couple little things to get us thinking.
Yeah. Well, you quit and you just move to a beach and you just figure it out on there. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. No. So, this is what it comes down to. And I credit my friend, Randy Marshall. And if anybody ever gets a chance to meet him, he's one of the most delightful people I've ever met and just has such a profound impact on my life. And what Randy helped me understand is what I end up calling the fog clearing sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And what it all boils down to is control and our relationship, specifically our relationship with things that feel outside of our control. Right. And how do we handle those? So I think, again, the most stressful part of middle management isn't the work. I think it's being held accountable for results that we don't always control.
Yeah.
Leadership comes with a steering wheel, which is fun. You get to move things around, but it also comes with this mirror. And outside of marriage and parenting, I don't know of any other role that does more character development work than saying yes to leadership. And this is one of those character developing type things. It changes you when you start to go, what is my relationship with situations outside of my control? So Randy, basically where I boiled it down to this, it's a sentence with 3 blanks that you fill in. And it is a sentence that you can use for any situation you're facing that feels overwhelming. And so the sentence goes like this: I don't control blank, comma, but I do control blank, comma, so I will blank, period. And so you start off asking, what do I not control here? And Jenni, it feels like a counterintuitive way to start, but I think it is so important for us to remind ourselves and start with what we don't control. Because as humans, we need to remember that we don't control other people. See also Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory, best-selling book of last year. Everybody loves that message because we need to be reminded we don't control other people.
So good.
And the sobering part that I think is maturing is we oftentimes don't control results.
Yeah.
I have desired results. Set the bar high. Dream. Put your emotions behind that, but then recognize there's a bunch of that I don't control. And I think the healthiest leaders are the ones that have they have a sober but mature relationship with results. And they recognize I want these results, but I don't ultimately control everything here. I'm going to be, put whatever words you need. I need the Lord to intervene. I need luck to intervene. I need something to happen to go my way to ultimately get the result that I desire. So it's good to start there. I don't control these things, but I do control, and this is where things get really interesting. I did this on Tuesday with a group of people, and I gave them an example, and I made them fill out the fog clearing sentence. And Jenni, this happens every time. They list things in the first column. Here's all the things I don't control. Then they get into the things they do control. And that list for most people was twice as long as the original list. And if you ask them on the front end, which list do you think is going to be bigger? The beat down middle manager who's a blamer like me, who's so used to feeling like they're just helpless. And of course, it's the things I don't control. It's the things I don't control. And I think the real key for people who make it through the valley is they know how to just swim in the waters of what I do control. And they can come up with an incredibly long list of things.
So good.
That'll get them moving. So then, okay, now I've got a lot of things I do control. So what am I going to commit to do? And that's the basic, that's how you make it through. And you do it about 1 million times a day. And it's just as many situations over and over and over again. I thought Randy created that, Jenni. I thought he made it up. And I just thought this man is brilliant. And then as I got into the book and I started studying, and I was like, son of a gun, this thing's been, that basic idea has been around for over 2,000 years. I mean, it's any scholars of Stoicism would recognize that what Epictetus talked about with the dichotomy of control is the ability to control your controllables. And then I was able to trace that through history and look at, the church fathers talked about it, St. Augustine, then philosophers talked about it with Immanuel Kant, and then Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning was talking about it. Even modern day philosophers, Ryan Holiday, Jocko Willink, James Clear. Yeah. Everybody's talking about, it's just about, so I just call it CYC, control your controllables. And I don't know if you're going to get the results you desire, but remember, you don't control results. You just control your controllables. And if you just know every night you go to bed going, did I do what I could do? And if you did what you could do, then you can go to bed going, all right, I did everything I could today. And then I wake up tomorrow and I'll do it all over again.
Yeah, that's so good, Adam. And it's like that's not overly complex, not necessarily easy to do, right? Because you're retraining yourself and how you're thinking and what you're focusing on. So that takes some intentionality and some work. But I love even the example in that just the surprise of, wait, I've thought my list of what I can't control would be so big. But once I actually start thinking about the things that I can control, I told you earlier about the situation with a lady that I was coaching that was frustrated by the culture of her organization.
Yeah.
And, the culture of the organization was struggling, and she tried to raise it to senior leaders, and they didn't really, kind of heed it or take action on it. And so she said, well, what can I do? And so she just focused on her team. Yes. And when she focused on what she could influence and what she could control, like she radically improved the culture within her team. And then that rippled out to the whole organization.
It does. Yeah.
And it's just so powerful. And again, I think you're giving people the sense of agency, the sense of hope of like, oh, wait, there is something I can do. Because we get into that place and we think, oh, there's nothing I can do. They, them, they're doing all the stuff and I'm just the victim, like you said. And I love the framing of that. You also put this in the book. You said the middle is where the real growth happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's where skills turn into wisdom. It's where ego gives way to character.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It really, well, thank you. And, not to sound too cliche with some of this, but the guy that drew that valley image for me way back in the 1900s, when I got that first promotion, it was a story with no ending. And when I took that and I then took something that we're all very familiar with Joseph Campbell's work and the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And you lay it over top, what you start to understand is that guy basically ended the movie at the best part. And the best part of the movie is when the hero feels at their wit's end, what I call the low point before the breakthrough.
Yeah.
And now when you start to expand what my friend that I call Frank said over what Joseph Campbell started to say, now you start to understand, no, the middle on every story plays a very vital role. And remember what Campbell said about the hero's journey. It's imitating real life. Mm-hmm. So we're not trying to live out movies. Movies are reflecting the real human experience, and novels are reflecting the human experience. And that is a vital part, because what the audience wants to watch is the transformation of the hero.
Yeah.
And that, I think, ultimately is what the Valley is designed to teach us. It's the low point before the breakthrough. It's the mirror. It's, yes, you're getting promoted, but you now have an opportunity to continue to develop as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want it, it's there. If you don't want it, like I said, there's going to be that 20% that's just still going to just blame people. And that's up to them, right? I don't control them. I don't control that.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of a profound, it's an interesting thought, right? That what if work really does also work on us? That opens up a lot of possibility, I think.
Yeah. What if work actually works on us? I love that. Okay, so somebody is listening and they're maybe even on their way to work this morning.
Yeah.
And they're not sure that they can survive another week.
Yeah.
What do you want them to know?
Well, I want them to know that they're not, like, that is not a weird experience. It is not, they're not alone in that is a very common experience. The valleys filled with fog are very disorienting.
Yeah.
And rather than looking for a massive solution today, for the big spotlight or the sunshine to come into that valley and suddenly clear everything, I really want to go back to that fog clearing sentence and just go, what you really need right now is just a flashlight. That's all I can promise you is a flashlight. So it's not going to light up everything.
Yep.
But I bet if you sit down and give yourself 5 minutes to go, I don't, but I do, so I will. That's just the flashlight that you need to take the next step. And then you wake up tomorrow, I don't, but I do, so I will. That's the next step. And then sooner or later, you'll start to get some momentum. And then I think the fog can start to clear and you'll start feeling like you're making progress. You start making it through and you quit looking for a way out.
That's so powerful, Adam. This is so good. You have written a book that is just a phenomenal resource.
Oh, thanks.
So both to every manager, in any organization, like this is, you just feel so seen and understood. And I think that's so powerful. But then for senior leaders who are saying, how do I help equip? How do I help support my middle managers? Like, I just would recommend, like, go order a bulk order of these books. And honestly, here's what I was thinking, Adam, when I was reading through this. I was thinking of some of the teams that I'm working with and seeing specific people in mind and going, if we got this for that entire team and we encourage them to read it and we walked through it together, I think they'll see it as a gift, not as a like, oh, another book we got to read that leadership's making us read. They might initially have that reaction.
Yeah.
But because of how well you connect with that role and the pain points of that role, I think that the gift of being seen and understood is I think that's what this book does for
thank you.
mid-level leaders. So if you're in that seat, just go order the book now. If you're a senior leader, you have some influence over creating learning environments for your team, go order it for your entire team and read it together. Like you guys, you know, I rarely say this. This book is that well done that I really think every leader I know needs to be putting into rotation for their teams. So, okay.
Thank you, Jenni.
How can people connect more with you and just keep learning from you?
Yeah, well, Adam Tarnow, Tarnow, adamtarnow.com. That's the best spot. You can connect with me there from email, links to the book, links to a discussion guide for teams to use.
Perfect.
If those senior leaders do want to buy bulk orders, we can get you some discounts on that. Shoot me a note and I can give you some pricing on that. But
perfect.
It means a lot, Jenni. It's no small thing to share your platform with me. I just appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about the book and a message that I believe deeply in. So thank you.
Well, thanks for equipping us as leaders. Again, such a gift and such a fantastic resource. So friends, you know what to do. Go find that book, go to Adam's website, check out more of ways to connect with him and some of the resources that he has. If you're in the middle of growth, a merger, crisis, and you're thinking, we just need some help, trust that instinct. Our team at Foresight offers free discovery calls to help you get clear on where your culture stands and what to do next. So head to getforesight.com to schedule your free call with one of our culture strategists and let us help you build a growing, thriving, and unstoppable team. Friends, thanks for listening today. Keep leading well.